Trevor Lawrence wasn't great. Was not great against Tennessee in a game where if the Jaguars won, they clinched the division. If they lost, their season was over, and Trevor went 29 of 43, 280, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, passer rating in the low 80s, and a QBR below average at 41.9. Trevor was far from unwatchable, but he also was far from great. He was kind of a little below average, let's put it that way. Now, coming into this season, for those that may not know, I said Trevor Lawrence was the third best quarterback in football. I thought given what I'd seen in the second half of 2022, I thought there were two quarterbacks I'd undeniably take over Trevor: Mahomes, Burrow, who I still maintain those are the clear number 1 and 2. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Burrow. He's still my number 2 to Patrick. Trevor Lawrence happened to also be my preseason MVP pick. The Jaguars in the preseason, I picked them to lose to the Chiefs in the AFC title game. Clearly, I was dead wrong about all of the above. This is, and it's going to be perceived as this, but I swear it's not. This is going to be perceived as me making excuses for Trevor. Oh, you're just covering for your guy. Or I'm just giving you stats-based evidence. Coming into when the Jaguars were 8-3, and they were on fire. They were playing a Monday Night Football game against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Jake Browning-led Cincinnati Bengals were in a position where if they won that game at that point in the year, in week 14, to be the 1 seed in the conference. The 1 seed. And it was week 13. I apologize. Week 13. And as it turned out, they lost that game, lost their quarterback. And by the way, Jacksonville was unable to get a freaking card out there for their franchise guy because they're a poorly run franchise. Can we check Trevor? Because Trevor suffered a terrible ankle injury against the Cincinnati Bengals, did not return. And I said the very next day, you can go back and check my show from, gosh, what would this have been? December 6th. Check that show when I talked about the Jacksonville Jaguars. I said, sit Trevor at least the next 2 games. You're playing the stacked Browns defense, led by Myles Garrett. You're playing the stacked Ravens defense the week after that. Then you're playing Tampa Bay's defense, which if Trevor is healthy, then you got to play him. But if he's not, rest him against Tampa. Then you play in the last 2 against Carolina and Tennessee, clinch the division. But what they did was what desperate franchises who aren't terribly used to success often do. They played him against Cleveland. He got more injured. Played him against Baltimore. He not only got more injured, he got concussed. They played him the following week against Tampa Bay. Messed up his shoulder. Missed the next week. He's still beat up. Bad ankle, bad shoulder, and by the way, got concussed less than a month ago. And he played poorly when he absolutely could not. When the Jaguars needed him most, he did not come through. Can we check Trevor's numbers before the injury and after the injury? We can check this right here. Let's put this up, okay? Here's what we got. Trevor Lawrence, in the 12 games that he was healthy in, again, we're going to include the Bengals game because he was healthy for most of it, 14 touchdowns, 7 picks, completed about 68% of his passes, had a passer rating in the mid-90s, 7 yards per attempt, and 4 rushing touchdowns, by the way, and led the Jaguars to an 8-4 record. We're in a great position, obviously, to win the AFC South, in a position to potentially get the 1 seed. After the injury, 7 touchdowns, 7 picks, completion percentage dipped from 68 to 60. That's like Cam Newton numbers. Passer rating dipped 20 points from 94 to 74. Yards per attempt dropped from 7.4 to 6.1. When Trevor was healthy, he had 4 rushing touchdowns. After he went down, did not have a single one. He went 8-4 in the games he was healthy, 0-4 in the games he was not. Are we just going to totally throw out the fact that maybe, just maybe, the injury contributed? Just like it contributed to Dak last year. Dak messed up his thumb week 1 against Tampa Bay. And through all those interceptions, everybody freaked out. Yeah, once Dak got healthy, and in the case of Dak, he needed a better play caller. I don't think Trevor needs a better play caller because Doug Peterson's excellent. But Dak needed a better play caller. Dak needed to get healthy, and what do you know? Dak's in all likelihood going to finish second to Lamar Jackson for the most valuable player. Jalen Hurts finished second for most valuable player a year ago, comes into this season, got hurt early on, hasn't looked like the same player. This is not an excuse. But to sit up here and act like that the injury contributed, none. If you're healthy enough to go out there, well, that applies, I think, in many cases. But when you go from deadly accurate to can't hit the broadside of a barn, that didn't just happen because you forgot how to play football. When Trevor came into that game against Cincinnati, 9 touchdowns in the previous 3 games. He was starting to heat up just like he did a year ago when Pro Football Focus said he was the 3rd best quarterback behind Mahomes and Burrow. And I'm hearing the discussion, hey, should the Jaguars this offseason, should they pay Trevor Lawrence? Well, you got any better options? What do you suggest Jacksonville does? They can draft one of the young guys in this upcoming NFL draft in April. Bo Nix, maybe Michael Penix slips. I hope he slips to my Steelers. Or Jaden Daniels potentially. But those are unknowns. You know what you have in Trevor when healthy. Let this be a lesson to the Jacksonville Jaguars and hopefully for the rest of the NFL. As the old saying goes, a wise man learns from the mistakes of others, a fool learns from his own. Let the rest of the NFL see what the Jacksonville Jaguars just did to Trevor Lawrence in the last month. Even to a certain degree, what the Bengals did with Burrow. When Burrow got hurt in training camp and was not healthy in week 1, but they played him anyway. And he ended the season injured. You come into a season hurt, you're going to leave the season hurt. You don't manage, your organization doesn't manage the injury the way they're supposed to, you're going to collapse physically by the end. And that's what happened with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, if nobody else is going to be on the Trevor Lawrence Island, knock yourself out. That's your right. And by the way, anybody wants to throw their darts at Trevor for the next 8 months, feel free. I'm not going anywhere. Do I think he's still the 3rd best quarterback in the league? Yeah, probably going to have to move off that position. Lamar's definitely surpassed him. Dak surpassed him. Allen. Then we can start arguing about Hurts and Herbert and guys like that. But he's not number 3. He is not number 3. To sit up here and act like the Jacksonville Jaguars mismanagement of his injury, which I called for. This is not revisionist history. Go back and look. I called from the jump when he went down. To act like that just didn't factor is intellectually dishonest. And you are ignoring that point just to make your point because you either didn't like Trevor or you're a prisoner of the moment, whatever the case may be. The injuries, ankle, concussion at one point, shoulder injury. So it played no factor. Played no factor at all? Well, the numbers say quite the opposite. Once again, before he got injured, 14 touchdowns passing, 4 rushing touchdowns, 7 picks, completed 67.9% of his passes, had a pass rating of 94.4, 7.4 yards per attempt, and led the Jags to an 8-4 record. After he went down, 7 touchdowns passing, no rushing touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Completion percentage dropped from 67.9 to 60, passer rating from 94 to 74, yards per attempt 7.4 to 6.1, and went 0-4 as a starter. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the injury had something to do with that. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.